It's that time again. So I say good afternoon to you out there. Joining me on this live broadcast from Born to Lead Studios. I would like to appreciate you for your faith and confidence in me and in this broadcast and in the daily sessions that we've always, no, not daily, weekly sessions that we've always reeled out for your knowledge and for empowerment as far as the concept of leadership is concerned. Today I'm going to be talking about the spheres of wealth, and I do know that a number of us, when we hear the word wealth, one key thing comes to mind, which is money. So I'm going to be looking at wealth from all the angles or possible angles that we can calculate and determine what wealth is or what wealth should be. So if you're out there and listening to me, my first question will be, how do you define wealth? What's your understanding of the word wealth? When you hear the word wealth, what comes to mind? Now, while you're thinking about that, I'll just direct you to the scroll bar on the bottom of my picture to say that registrations are ongoing for the Born to Lead Leadership Academy. And at the moment, we just need 4 more persons to complete the registration, to close the registration. Now, the Born to Lead Academy will run virtually, will be online through or via Zoom. And it will be a weekend program where Friday and Saturdays we take out 2 hours for 1 month, within 1 month, to deal on topics and subjects of leadership for you to comprehend and to understand and to build you up or build your capacity up to help you be a better person wherever you find yourself. Again, at Born to Lead, we believe that every one of us was created to be a leader. And there are several reasons that we could point to prove that point or to make that point clear. Now, at the Born to Lead Academy, you'll find out about all those points, and you'll probably wake up from your sleep and slumber, having assumed that others were leaders and you are not a leader. So Born to Lead and Academy registration is still ongoing. It's for both national and international candidates. For those paying in Naira, you just require 10,000 Naira to make your registration. And for those paying in dollars, just $20, and it goes right into the same account. So if you're interested, please feel free, make the payments, and then the schedule will be made available to you so you can be a part and parcel of what we will be doing at the Academy. Back to today's topic, the various spheres of wealth. So I asked a question earlier on. When you hear the word wealth, what comes to mind? What registers in your heart regarding the concept of the word wealth? Now, for so many of us, wealth starts and ends with money. But I ask you a question, a very fundamental question. What will it benefit you if you had all the resources on earth, if you had all the money on earth, and yet were unable to spend the money? If you had every dime that you required on earth and had no time to spend the money, of what benefit will it be to you? I give you a story. I used to have a client as a lawyer. I used to have a client who always invited me to his home to help out with straightening out his papers and documents in terms of his company and all the businesses that he usually organized. One of the things that I observed with that client was the fact that He had so much wealth. So much wealth. People came from left, right, and center seeking his attention. However, he didn't have time for himself. He didn't have time for his family. And whenever he was served a meal, the way he ate the meal made me pity him. Honestly. When you serve, say, for example, rice, in less than 5 minutes, he eats the rice, no matter how plenty it is. And by the way, I also observed that it wasn't something special. It was just the everyday, ordinary rice with funny condiments. They didn't even prepare it in a special way. So he had all the wealth in the world, or at least all the wealth that he could get, but did not have time to enjoy his meal. Did not have time for his kids to play with him. He was jumping from meeting into meetings, out of one meeting into another meeting. So would you say that that man is wealthy? In my view, he wasn't wealthy. Yes, he had all the money, but he was far from being wealthy, because wealth goes far beyond money. And those are the things we're going to look at today. We're going to look at 7 areas where you need to be wealthy. 7 areas where you need to be wealthy. And the first of those areas is your spiritual wealth. And by this, I mean your relationship with your Maker. Everyone, even those who talk about evolution or so on, well, of course, those who talk about evolution try to shield that aspect of life, try to suggest that we just fell from somewhere. And you know, the question I usually ask those who believe in evolution, those who believe in the Big Bang theory, is that those things that exploded and gave the Big Bang, where did they come from? Because, of course, something must have brought them for them to be exploding. It meant that something existed before it exploded. All right? So the simple question I usually ask is, where did those things come from? And if you do your trace, if you trace backwards, you'd always end up to this invisible, almighty God, which no human has the capacity to fully and truly comprehend or to explain. Well, that's an argument for another day. But your first form of wealth is to be spiritually wealthy, to have a connection with your Maker, to tidy up things in your relationship with God Almighty, the one who made the world, the one who created all humans, the one who created everything, both the seen and the unseen things. Now, if you have a sound relationship with your Maker, you can be said to be very wealthy. Okay? You can be said to be extremely, extremely wealthy, because you know that those who have a sound relationship with their Maker always live right and live appropriately, regardless of the society that they find themselves. A question has once been asked, what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and yet loses that which is key, that which is important to him, which is his soul? What will it profit you? If you had all the houses, if you had all the cars, if you had all the wives, if you had all the children, if you had all the money, if you had all the banks answering to you, what will it profit you if you had all and then lost your soul? It simply means that you are poor. That's what it means. The interpretation is the fact that you are poor. Okay? So the first form of wealth is to have spiritual wealth. And that can only be attained if you have a sound relationship with God, your Maker. The second form of wealth is what we call the solical wealth. Solical wealth. And by the way, a lot of what I'm going to be saying is called from Miles Monroe's book that I read many years ago. And he broke down this wealth in 7 phases, and it intrigued me. And from that point, I began to take seriously certain things that I never took seriously. Okay? So your solical wealth is that wealth that deals with your intellect, okay, with your well-being upstairs, your emotions. Are you emotionally balanced? Are you intellectually sound? There are a number of us who wake up day after day and never read anything. There is a common saying that if you had to hide anything from an African, put it in a book. I do not agree with that saying, honestly, because I know of a number of Africans who read and read diligently. But it's just a saying, because again, there are also Westerners who do not read even a newspaper or a signpost on the road. All right? So your solical wealth has to do with your intellect, your emotional balance. There are so many people who are not emotionally balanced. Their well-being intellectually is highly questionable. These are the people who would believe anything that they see on social media. Anything that is written and posted on social media. These people, in fact, some do not read beyond 2-3 lines. They believe the entire article and send it out. They do not even reason. Now, for you to be wealthy intellectually and emotionally, you have to be someone who reads. Someone who spends time developing the brain. And when you watch programs on TV, these are people who, when they watch programs on TV, they watch the programs for the sake of what they can learn, not for entertainment's sake. Of course, that's not to say seeking entertainment is bad, but when such people who pursue intellectual and emotional wealth watch TV, they sieve out what is good and developmental to their brains. No wonder a famous writer once said, study to show yourself approved. Study. I hear of your excuse when you say, oh, nobody has sent you to school, so you're unable to read, you're unable to do that. Well, I hear of that excuse, but I'll tell you something. Many years ago, I challenged 2 young men to further their studies. One moved from the village to the city and had no sponsors. And I said, get a job, even if it is a house helps job that you get it. Save money and use it for educational purposes. The other even said that his father had never sent him even to the primary school. I said, no, don't bother. Forget about the past. The past is past. Focus on the things that are ahead of you. And they did. And I can proudly tell you that both of them are degree holders from the University of Abuja here in the FCT. Both of them. So I hear your excuse, but I will tell you that your excuse is not tenable. It won't take you far. I wish, above all things, that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So solical wealth is the next form of wealth. The third form of wealth is your physical wealth, your physical well-being. I said earlier on, what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and is unable to spend what he has? There was a story of a very wealthy person who had traveled abroad outside of Nigeria to go for medical treatment. He had billions in his bank account. However, because he had control of the account, he needed to sign a check to get monies for treatment. It was in those days when we didn't have ATM cards or so. All right. And because he couldn't sign, nobody could gain access to the account. And he eventually died, leaving billions. Now, what will it profit you if you had all the money in the world and your health failed you? You see, many of us do not consider health as wealth. There's a famous saying in Hausa language that lafiyar jiki arziki ce, meaning your health is wealth. And many of us do not consider that as being wealthy. So we're healthy, and simply because we do not have money in the bank account or in our pockets, we think that we're poor. No, you are healthy. Now, for you to be physically healthy, you must eat right, sleep when you ought to sleep, get the right sleep. You must do some form of exercises. I just note that in this 21st century, a number of us have become so lazy that we move from the house into a car with the AC, we drive, and that's after we've taken breakfast that someone had prepared. We drive to the office. From the office, we will go straight into the office with AC, sit down under the AC, do all the work that we can do, get up from there, back to the car, back to the house, no form of exercise. Even in the house, we switch on and off the TV by the remote. That's a lazy form of living. Physical wealth is wealth that every one of us must pursue. And to do that, you need to do exercises. You need to eat right. You need to eat right. You need to also drink right. You also need to rest when you need to rest, and do your exercises when you need to do your exercises. The next form of wealth is your social wealth. And here I'm talking about relationships. When you go out of your house, are there people who respect you or relate with you? Most of us also do not count social wealth as being wealthy. In reality, in life, you do not need so much money. You just need to know someone who has so much money. Yeah, I'm not saying that you don't need money. You need the money. And I'm not discouraging you from pursuing monetary wealth. But what I'm saying is that sometimes you don't need all the money to do certain things. You just need friends. And I ask you, do you have a sound relationship with your spouse, with your children, with your in-laws, with your parents, with your colleagues at work, with your business partners? Because social wealth requires that you have sound relationships within and outside your home. Okay? Within and outside your home. That's what it means. Your neighbors must learn to respect you. You must learn to do good to all people. You must also learn to forgive. That's a tough part. Forgiveness is a tough part. But you see, the truth is that if you do not learn to forgive people, you will not have a good social health, or wealth rather. The next form of wealth is your influential wealth. I've always defined leadership as influence. Just as suggested by J. Oswald Sanders. Okay? Influence is your capacity to change somebody's perspective, to change somebody's way of living, to influence or to impact rather on somebody's behavior. That's what influence is. And every one of us, for us to fully exhibit our leadership skills and ability, we've got to be very influential. Principally influential. Now, if you are influential, and depending on the number of people that you influence, if you are influential, you are wealthy. And for you to be influential, you've got to be very valuable. Valuable. What do you bring to your society that no one else can bring? What do you provide for mankind, for humanity, that no one else in the world can provide? If you are that valuable, you become highly influential. And if you are influential, you are very wealthy. Because influential people actually do not need to have everything. They just need to have people around them. And everything that they need will be provided. If you're a student of the Bible, you remember the story of David when he wanted when he wanted water from a particular well. And he just simply voiced it out. And before evening, 3 of his strong men had gone, conquered the entire enemy camp, and gotten water from that well for him. That's what influential people do. That's how influential people benefit. Beyond that is your communal wealth, what I call communal wealth. And by that I mean your ability to help your community. Your ability to lift the poor out of their poverty, to visit orphanages, to be so communal in your thinking that everything that you gain, you share with others out there. And when I say everything, it includes knowledge. So you do not hold knowledge to yourself. That's your communal wealth. And a number of us do not know that that is good wealth. Some of us have become weary in doing good. You know, and I know of a popular quote that says, do not be weary in well-doing, for at the appropriate time, you will receive your reward. So communal wealth is your ability to enhance your community. If you live in a block of flats, do others in that block of flats look up to you when decisions are to be made? Do people depend on your strength and ability to do certain things? If that be the case, then you have communal wealth. And that, I can tell you, is quite good and helpful for you. The final form of wealth is generational wealth. A good man leaves an inheritance, not just for his children, but for his children's children. You cannot be said to be wealthy unless what you know and have is passed on to 2 generations after you. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And let me tell you, one of the best inheritance to leave for your children's children is a piece of land. If you own a piece of land, it simply means that you own a portion of the earth. That you have carved out a portion of the earth for yourself, for your children and their children. And when I think of this generational wealth, I always give an example of someone who I used to know, well, at least the whole Nigeria used to know. He was the wealthiest black man in his time. ventured into politics, died, and almost immediately, all that he had gathered dissipated. Today, if you tell a young person about that man's name, they will most likely not know him. He had wealth, but it wasn't generational. Again, earlier on, I was watching the CNN about the verdict on over the George Floyd case that sprang riots all over America some time back. And an interview was conducted, and the interviewer was talking to Martin Luther King's daughter. It was interesting that her father's work has passed on to her, and definitely the name will pass on to even the grandchildren. That's generational wealth. Wealth that outlives a generation, outlives 2 generations into the third. It's called generational wealth. And I encourage you that you pursue such wealth. Again, for a recap, thank you for those of you who are just joining. And thank you for your time. I said, when you look at the scroll bar, you will notice that we're still advertising the need to register for Born to Lead Leadership Academy. Actually, we need only 4 more persons, and the window will be short at least for this time. Okay? It's 10,000 naira for those within Nigeria and $20 for those across the globe, wherever you are and you want to be a part and parcel of that academy. Today, we talked about the spheres of wealth. And I looked at 7 areas where we all ought to be wealthy. The first is in our relationship with God, our Maker, spiritual wealth. The next is your solical wealth, and that includes your intellectual and emotional wealth. The next is your communal wealth, how well you are faring in your community. The fourth is the intellectual wealth, influential wealth. Okay? How influential are you? How you are influential determines how far your leadership goes. The next is your social wealth. And we talked about social wealth. Then we rounded up with generational wealth, just as we talked about physical wealth, your well-being. These are the kind of wealth that you need to pursue. If you notice, I didn't mention money in any of these, because in reality, money flies like the wind. But if you have all of these 7 wealth, you can attract money any day, anytime, anywhere you find yourself. That's the truth about life. I would stop at this point and encourage you to pursue any of this wealth so you can do good even for yourself. And as I round up, let me say again to you that, of course, Born to Lead is an organization that deals with the study and the teaching of leadership. We're open to invitation across the globe, and we welcome you anytime, any day that you want us to come around to have a discussion on leadership with you as a family, your organization, or even with you as an individual. Let me appreciate you for your time and taking time to spend the few minutes with me, having discussed the spheres of wealth today. Tell your friends next time, Wednesday, 1 p.m. West African time, we'll meet again, even as we discuss more on leadership. Bye-bye. Thank you for this moment. Have a great week ahead of you.